Welcome, all you Sheehanites, to another special episode of Sheehan is Dead Comics. Tonight, I'll be interviewing the one and the only Andy DiGenova from Holy Batcast. It's definitely worth your listen. Andy and the guys, Brendan and Jamie, do a great job. They're a very enjoyable listen. Also, he's got real fans for real movies as well, RF or RM. Check it out online, Google it. But without further ado, here's Andy DiGenova.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, man. First off, it's such a pleasure to talk to you. I really love Holy Batcast. I can't tell you how many times I've been at work and passed the time listening to it. Really, really enjoy everything you and Jamie and Brendan do. So,
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
yeah. And you do a great job as the host slash mediator. And you bring people together. You have a very unique talent for that. So,
Oh, thanks. That means a lot. I appreciate it.
all
This
right.
is my Batman office, but I have it blurred so you can't see all the cool stuff behind me.
Yeah, it looks like over your right shoulder you have some kind of shelf, right?
Oh yeah.
And then on
How
the
do
left,
how do I unblur it? Oh, here it is. Wait, what? Darn it. I just messed it up. There we go.
oh,
Yeah.
hey, wow,
There's,
yeah, man, I love that. I
there's
love
all
it.
my Batman stuff.
Yeah, and is that your Batman books with the statues and figures, or
Yeah, yeah.
that's super cool. And I
Yeah.
see, is that like a Batman Van Gogh over there, or
That my mom painted for me.
what?
So yeah, she did like the Starry Starry Night with Batman on it.
Oh, dude, I know how much your mom means to you. Yeah, mine
Yeah,
too.
so
Oh,
it's
that's
cool.
beautiful, Andy. That's awesome.
Thanks.
That's another thing I appreciate about you too, is you have a really big heart, and it comes across in your podcast. So
Well, thank you.
yeah.
I
And
try.
that's why I wanted to talk to you too, besides just being a big fan, is you just seem like a really sweet human being. So thank
Oh,
you
well,
for coming on.
thanks. I
Thank you.
usually am, but we all have our moments.
I'm sure there was the one pod where you were I think the three of you were trying to line up. I don't know if it was BBS, and you said to Brendan, you're like, hey you, hey oi, like that. Oh man,
Yeah,
that gets me every time. I always laugh. So yeah,
he doesn't, but I'm glad you do.
yeah.
He's less amused.
Yeah. And then I told you about the shoey because I saw it on TV on wrestling where they pour. Apparently, it's a big thing. They pour a beer into a shoe and then drink it.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. He wasn't overly enthused with that one either. So
yeah.
I think I have one strike or two strikes, but I digress.
He'll live.
Yeah. So have you watched the new Batman yet?
I have. I was watching it when I got home from work just
Yeah.
before I came up here. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm rewatching the first couple because we're gonna, that's what we'll talk about this week.
Sure. I'll try and be, as vague as possible or reveal as much as you want. The first, the first episode that came on last Thursday, excuse me, I literally had to watch it 4 times because the first like 3 times I was like 10 years old again. And I was just sitting
Mm.
there and I'm like, it was it was in a very positive way, it was overwhelming.
That's great. No, I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. How about you?
I really like it. I'm really into it. Yeah, I've only watched the first few. I'm actually like having self-control and parsing it out so it's, I can enjoy it over a longer span of time.
Sure.
But I've watched the first three and I love it. Like I didn't know what to think before it premiered because the promotional material had me intrigued but not necessarily excited. But then I watched that first episode. I was like, no, this is great. I love it. It's awesome. It's very different, but like in a very good way. And it still feels very like Batman.
Yes. There's that one shot when Batman, I think it's in the first one, maybe the second one. I think it's in the first one when he like swings through the city from a rooftop. I think it's after he, lifts the fire chief by his
Yeah,
ankle.
yeah, yeah.
And then as he's as he shoots his grapple gun into the city and he disappears off the screen, like it looked just like BTAS, the
Yes.
background. And I was like,
Yes.
wow, this is so awesome. It's awesome. Like,
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments too. It's so simple, but like again, like Batman, swinging through dark Gotham City. It's just one of those iconic images. And yeah, I saw that and I was like, all right, okay, I'm in. You got me.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm so you know, it took so long for it to be made. I think it was announced what in like 2021. And
Yeah.
I saw that, Bruce Timm was on it. Cool. JJ, all right. Matt Reeves, super. And then once I saw they hired Ed Brubaker, I was like, okay, now we're getting serious. This is going to be
Yeah.
good. And then they got Greg Rucka also,
Mhm.
and they wrote Gotham Central, which I still haven't read completely. So
Yeah. Yeah.
have,
No,
have
there's
you
so much good talent and it's really good.
have you ever read Gotham Central?
I have not. I read something. I think I'm getting it mixed up with another book from like, or maybe it was Gotham Central. There was some other book in the 90s that was about the cops in Gotham that I read. I can't remember if it was that one or a different one because I haven't read it since then. So yeah, it may have been that. I'll have to look it up and figure it out. But even if I had read it, I remember almost nothing about it because it was been a long
Okay.
time ago.
Yeah, I think I read like the first issue. And when I was younger in my 20s, I was very snooty about art. I'm like,
Uh-huh.
oh, this Michael, I think it's Michael Lark. Ah, this art is, what am I reading here? I can't read this. But now I've become more involved in the story the older I've gotten. So
Yeah. This might have been it.
yeah,
The cover looks familiar. This might have been it. But
yeah.
I probably only read a couple. But yeah, that does actually ring a bell. I was curious because I'm like, yeah, what was that thing that I read way back when? Anyway, yeah.
Did you ever read Batman Bruce Wayne Murderer Fugitive?
No, I don't know that one.
Rucka and Brubaker like tag team on that a lot. That was from
Hmm.
like the 10 Cent Adventure, I think from like 2003 or 4, something like that. So
Okay.
they actually put out a 10-cent comic to draw you in, and that was when the murder happens.
Hmm.
So there's the trade paperbacks are out now, but they actually just announced the omnibus for it.
Oh, okay.
So I'm super excited. I have the trades in my closet, and basically Bruce Wayne it murders someone in
Hmm.
his house, and then there's like this whole manhunt for Bruce Wayne, and then things happen. He's still Batman, blah blah blah, blah. And then it's fugitive because he escapes, and so he's on the run. And then you'll see all about it. It's one of my absolute favorite stories, Batman Murderer Fugitive. So
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah, I highly recommend it.
All
Or
right.
if you've listened to the great Ryan Lauer, he hypes up Hoopla.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
have you ever checked it out? Because I
I
did.
have not, but you're right. He's not the only one who's told me I need to.
All right, because I didn't know what Hoopla was. And
Yeah.
then I downloaded it and it's like, oh wow, you can actually find everything. So like I'm sure Bruce Wayne Murderer and Fugitive is on there.
Hmm.
As long as you don't mind reading digitally. Like I'm old school. I love the
Uh-huh.
smell of the paper. How about you?
Hmm. I have gotten way more digital over the past, I'd say 10 years, especially because I would travel so much and it just makes it so much easier. But I do appreciate going back to the physical ones when I get a chance, especially like ones that I've had since I was a kid. Like
Yeah,
there's something super special about that. But when I buy new, 90% of the time I buy digital just because space.
space. No, I
Yeah.
understand. That's why I
Yeah.
do the omnibuses and the absolutes.
Hmm.
Because back in my early 20s, like I gave up buying individual issues. So
Right.
yeah, and then I just pack them away. So
Well, that's just I have like how many of these massive long boxes? I bought like these really sturdy plastic long boxes, but they're all in the garage, and I need to like go through and pull out the valuable ones and start like because it concerns me that they're in the garage.
do you have them off the floor?
Um, they're in the middle of the floor, like there's no worry of like
Blood or
flooding.
okay.
They're in a place where they will remain dry, but they're also still in the garage. So
No, I understand.
I worry, but like I don't know where else to put them. We don't have basements here in Florida. We don't have attics either. So it's like, yeah, I don't know where else they go.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, I guess as long as you have a dehumidifier so it doesn't mess
Yeah.
with the pages, that's cool.
Yeah.
So tell us about Holy Batcast. You know, tell us about your jam with Batman, how you got hooked
Sure.
up, please.
Sure. I mean, I've been doing Holy Backcast over 10 years now, which is nuts. Yeah, we celebrated 10 years, I think, in February earlier this year. And so yeah, I mean, it was something I started listening to podcasts and I started enjoying listening to other people do podcasts. And I started a different movie podcast, like so many of us nerds out there, and really started having fun. And then I realized like every other episode, we would always bring the conversation back to Batman. And so I was like, and at the time, because this would have been 2014,
Mhm.
at the time, there were like very few Batman podcasts. There had been some in the past, but like they had all kind of disappeared. They all kind of gone on hiatus. So when I started Holy Batcast, it was like there was this weird lull of like very little Batman podcasting happening. Because even some of the bigger ones, like they were on break or whatever. And so yeah, I started it then in February of 2014, and we've certainly had our growing pains and learned how to do it, but it's been a blast. I mean, I've been a Batman fan all my life, but especially since 1989, since I was 10 years old. And so that was when I really fell in love with Batman, and it never really went away. And so yeah, once I got into this hobby of podcasting anyway, I was like, well, I want to talk about Batman whenever I want to talk about it. And unlike my movie podcast, which was Real Fans for Real Movies, which is also still going, so that's going 11 years now. Um, that one, there was a bunch of us, and so like anyone with podcasting will tell you that like scheduling is the bane of our existence. But with Holy Backcast, I was like, okay, well, it's my show, and if someone's not available this week, I could just call someone else, and like I don't have to wait on anybody, so I can keep it going on my own terms. And so that was sort of the idea. But it's been a blast, and I've been able to talk about almost everything Batman related that I've ever wanted to. We movies, toys, animation, animated movies, video games, like, just all kinds of stuff. And it's crazy that Batman is a big enough thing that, you can fill 10 years of podcasting with it. And I still have a list of things I need to get to.
That's so cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah. But
Love your
it's super
shirt
fun.
too.
Yeah.
Love your
Oh,
shirt
thanks.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I was
Batman.
like, oh, let me pull a Batman shirt out. I have too many. And I went with this one.
Yeah, I love your Adam West thing over your left shoulder too. Is that like
So
a
it's
mask?
that one. This guy
Yeah.
it's a Jason Voorhees. It's like a hockey mask, but painted like Batman.
Oh, wow.
It's super
Wow.
random.
That's super cool.
My friend Hunter
Yeah, I
got
see
it
the
for me.
eyebrows and the nose.
Yeah.
And the mouth part looks peach like a skin. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Does it have the ears or just the mask?
No, they actually even cut like the little ears into the top of it. It's
That's
pretty
so
nifty.
cool. Wow.
I have my little bat cave here with all my Batman stuff, and then I still have boxes of Batman stuff elsewhere. It's a little out of control.
Gotcha. Wow, that's so cool, man. Are you up to date on any of the modern Batman? Like, do you still collect issues or trades or?
Yes. It's funny, I talked about this on Holy Batcast not that long ago because I subscribed to the main Batman book. I feel like it was like my duty. Um, and I went on a cruise a few months ago, which is when I get most of my reading done. Because, as you know, I have a toddler, I've got a 2-year-old and a full-time job. So I don't read comics as often as I would like. I just don't have the time. But when we go on a cruise, you can send the kids off to the kids areas. And so on that cruise, I like caught up on the current book. And I'll be honest, I really did not like the current run. It was not working for me. There were a couple nice little things in it, but I was like, you know what? I think I'm gonna unsubscribe. And it kind of hurt me to do it, but it's like if I'm not enjoying it, like why am I paying for it?
Correct.
And I do pay for like DC Universe Infinite and like stuff like that. So I'm like, so I pop in and out when I can. The current Batman run, not really doing it for me. I really love the World's Finest, but I'm a little behind on that. I really like the Tom Taylor Nightwing run, but I'm a little behind on that. So I do what I can, but yeah, usually I'm not super current. Like the new issue doesn't come out and I've read it in a day.
Right.
I tend to let them pile up and then I find a time to start getting through them.
No, I understand. That's what I do with the trades. So
Yeah.
like you. So when Chip Zdarsky was announced for Batman, I was so excited because I had not read his Daredevil run, but I kept seeing like all this praise heaped on him, right?
Yeah.
So when he got announced, I was like, oh my goodness, he could basically he could extrapolate so much of his Daredevil run and just make it into Batman. It seemed like a no-brainer. But
Mm.
there's like these bonkers things going on, and I'm like, what? Fail safe? Okay. Batman of Zurin R. I didn't know I was going to deal with that after Grant Morrison did it. Alrighty. And then the one where the Joker, uh what is it, Mr.
Jo-
Red or something, sends
is it
him.
Joker year one
No, it's
or
well, that's
different?
part of the run too. But where he got sent back in time and then
Oh
his
yeah, 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 yeah.
hand got cut off, and I'm like, what are we
Right.
doing?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
What are we doing? This is not
I
Batman.
know, and I hate to like talk bad, but
No, right, right, right. But
like
I'm
yeah,
like you. I have collected like every hardcover or trade paperback of the main Batman title. Like it's my
yeah.
duty, right? So I remember I got the first one. I was so excited, ended in disappointment. The second one, I'm like, all right, let me see what's going on. I'm like, nope, still not feeling it. So I'm not picking that up until they do something else. But
Yeah, same. I was like, okay, listen, I bought how long has he been on it? 2 years now? Like something like that.
about
Like
that, about
I
that.
bought 2 years worth of Batman comics. I've done my part. Um, but yeah, I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for it to change again. But like you mentioned failsafe, in and of itself, it's a cool idea. I actually like the idea of failsafe. But like 2 years later, he's still around. Like it's still
Yes,
fail safe. I'm like,
yes,
why are we still doing this? That could have been like a 4 issue story, and that would have
right.
been fine. But 2 years, fail safe is still around. What is going on?
Yeah. And now he's being used for that whole DC refresh with the absolute power.
Uh-huh.
Have you
Yeah.
seen that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like him and I think Lady Brainiac or Brainiac's daughter or something like that, whatever it is now. Amanda Waller's using them to like
Mm,
depower the heroes and do da da da. It's kind of like a rip off a little bit of the Cadmus arc in the
mm,
Justice League animated
mm.
season, which was fantastic. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, so but I'll tell you what, I went to New York Comic Con in October, and Zdarsky's line was like bonkers. And I'm like, all right, I don't get it. I don't understand.
Well, and
Like,
I've heard his Daredevil. I haven't read his Daredevil stuff either, but I've heard it's great, and that's
right,
awesome. So
right, right. And it's like
yeah.
Daredevil, I don't think there's any fail safe in Daredevil, right? So
Right.
there's Daredevil, who's the Batman of Marvel, and yet we have a whole different spin on Batman, yet you did the Batman in Marvel. So I digress, but
Yeah.
I digress with that one. Comics as a whole, pretty much now for me, I feel like they've shown me the door. Like,
Mm,
for instance, with Zdarsky and other things, I just don't feel the connection with the stories.
yeah.
Whereas the things that I collected in the 90s, because I'm a 90s kid like you, um, like those are the things that I'm drawn to. Anything from like Nightfall on for Batman, I've collected, and I'm like holding on steady. Like that's my spot. My
Mm,
sweet spot is like from Nightfall to like Identity Crisis, Infinite Crisis. I
mm.
never read Final Crisis. I haven't read that. Have you
I
read?
I have not either. There are so many crises, I can't even keep them all straight. But
Right.
Identity Crisis is my favorite. I think it's a masterpiece. I just absolutely love
If I could hug you right now, I literally would. So consider me
it.
sending a hug to you,
Oh, thanks.
because I love Identity Crisis. I think I've heard you mention that too. So
Yeah.
thank you for refreshing me.
I
But
think
yet,
it somewhat flies under the radar, but like those of us who've read it just love it because it's amazing.
right?
Yeah.
I wasn't collecting comics at that time. What was it, like 2000, 2004? But I started going to the comic shop every month to collect each issue of that, because I was like, I can't believe they're doing this with comic book characters. Like,
Yeah.
it was so grown up. It was like, wow, this blew my mind, you know? And
Yeah. So
then
it's fantastic.
but nowadays, as I'm sure you've heard, it's very popular for people to poo-poo on, for the politically correct stuff, like, oh, they display women and this and that, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, well, that's what they did worse in the movies, that you and I grew up with, like Schwarzenegger or Seagal or like Van
Mm.
Damme. There was always something terrible that happened that they had to, get their revenge and hence justify the movie.
Right, right, right.
Like, I'm not as sensitive to that stuff. But I remember when I spoke to Dan DiDio, he was like, if you like Watchmen, you should like Identity Crisis. if you like Watchmen and don't like Identity Crisis, then I don't think you read Watchmen. He told me. So I was like, fair enough,
All
fair enough.
right.
I
Yeah,
get it. I get it. That was a good comparison. So,
totally. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's another murder mystery, but then with all these other shades of everything else going on, it's great.
yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome. I also talked to Rags Morales, the artist,
Hmm.
and he said originally Ethan Van Sciver was supposed to draw it, but Van Sciver was known for, taking his time. So Rags was known for his expressions and
Hmm.
being on time. So hence he got the story. I was like, oh,
Oh, nice.
very cool. Interesting. So a little, what is it? Baseball. Um,
Inside baseball?
thank you. Because
Is
my
that it?
next thing was how the sausage is made. So yeah, how the sausage was made. That's so cool. So Identity Crisis is your favorite story.
It's
Oh,
one of them. It's
all
up
right. It's
there.
one
I
of
don't
them.
know. I don't know if I have a favorite story, but like when I think of the ones that I'm like, oh, you need to read this, that one's one of the first, especially because again, I don't think it gets the acclaim. Like I can tell you to read The Long Halloween and The Dark Knight Returns, but everybody already knows that.
Right. Have you read The Dark Knight Returns?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I've never read it. However,
Oh,
I do have the Absolute Edition. And when I watched when it came out, I think in 2014, the animated
it-
two-parter,
right.
I really enjoyed that. But when I cracked open the book, I'm like, oh my goodness, this art is so ugly. Like it hurts. It hurts to read. And then I see what Frank Miller did before coming to DC at Marvel with his Daredevil. And I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, I actually like this art. So what happened when he got to Batman? I don't know. But the art in that story drives me insane.
No, I mean that's fair. It's not my favorite style either, but I just think
Right.
the story is so good and so compelling. Like honestly, I feel the same way about The Long Halloween. Like the art is a little more stylized than is my preference, but like for that story in that context, it certainly evokes a mood. I roll with it, and I feel like the same way about Dark Knight Returns. It's not, I'm never gonna say these are my favorite looks of anyone, but for that story, I dig it. And again, the story, the writing is so good that
Yes.
I go, it
Well,
works
that
for
was
me.
another one. I remember being in Borders. Hey, Borders, we're dating ourselves here. And I remember specifically looking at The Long Halloween. I'm like, oh my God, this art is ugly. Put it on the
Yeah,
shelf. The same thing with like Haunted Night and Dark Victory. But then as I got older and I read them, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And this matches so well. So now I'm
exactly. Yeah.
like primo. So do you have a favorite Batman writer for comics that you've
Oh, wow. Oh my God. I feel like
or even a few like
yeah,
uh,
I mean, I feel like I go back to when really got into comics in the 90s,
mhm.
the folks who were writing them then.
Like
But I'm
Chuck
blank.
Dixon.
Chuck Dixon. Thank
Yeah,
you. That's exactly the name I was trying to come up with. All I kept thinking was Norm Brayfogle and Jim Aparo. And I'm like, no, those are both artists.
right,
Chuck Dixon. But
right.
yes, like that was my era of really getting into Batman and getting into Batman comics. And like I feel like that was just a magical time. And maybe it's because I was just the right age, but like it was the right level of storytelling, complicated enough, but traditional enough. And I just, yeah, that era really worked for me.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Yeah. A
And
magical.
this is somewhat controversial, more modern.
Okay.
I really liked James Tynion the fourth. I
You
really
know what?
liked.
I like his writing. I liked it. I'm rereading Nightfall. The omnibus. I read that and I'm like, wow, it just took me back to when I was like collecting the issues, the back issues,
Oh yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
this. Like, oh, this one's $4, this one's $10, And I remember collecting it in pieces. And then when it came out in trade paperback, it was so exciting. And then now the omnibuses. So I read the first two, Nightfall and Knight's Quest, and now I'm doing
Hmm.
Knight's End where Bruce comes
Hmm.
back. And just reading it, like the art at that time was so cool, but
Yeah,
compared to how realistic it is now, the art seems very pedestrian. Like, and the coloring also. Like, obviously, technology's advanced, but it's like you said, it was such a magical time.
it was. Yeah, I mean, I started rereading Nightfall last year. I had these grand plans of doing like a 30th anniversary episode on Holy
Oh,
Batcast.
I would be so there.
But then, some things happened in life where I got distracted and I didn't get around to finishing it. So I got sort of, I think like maybe a third of the way through. And then I had family things with my mom, but yeah. So one of these days I need to come back to it, finish it up. It won't be the 30th. It won't be as clean as I like it. I like my anniversaries, but I need to get around to doing that because, like I said, of the list of things that I want to do on Holy Backcast, that's on there because also, it's a touchstone for the character and it's a really fun story, especially, leading up to the breaking of the bat.
Yeah. Dude, I remember getting Knight's End in the trade paperback, and I was so excited. I
Mm,
remember I got it from Borders, and I brought it home and read it immediately that night because I didn't know how that ended. I only had like I think part five and like part one, so I didn't know how. I only had those two things to hang on. But then when I got the whole trade paperback, I just tore through that bad boy like over and over and
yeah.
over. So I loved
It's
it.
a lot of reading. There are so many, but
It
it's
is.
it's a fun journey.
It really is. It really is. Even as bats, like when you open the omnibus for like Night's End, it's him coming at you, right?
Yeah.
And then on
Yeah.
the back and at the end, it's Bruce, in his
Mm.
regular suit. But just seeing Asbatch just tickles me like all inside here. It just really is like, wow. And I saw the McFarlane announced another one recently.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Because you like your McFarlanes, right? Don't you?
I do.
Yeah, you do.
I I try to pick and choose.
Yeah.
But they know how to get us, man. It's evil, but it's fun. And again, there are far worse habits that we could have as grown men. But yeah, like the McFarlane toys are so cool. The ones they've been doing for like the classic movies. My Batman Forever figure should be arriving, I think, any day now. Like I'm waiting for them.
Oh, dude, that's so cool.
Um,
So you got Batman and Robin. Anybody else like carry it?
I did the whole set. I'm all in. Like I did the Batman and Robin's line because I just was so tickled that they did it. That like the fact that they made like a modern, beautifully sculpted, movie accurate version of Batman and Robin. I was like, I've got to. And then fortunately, I wasn't the only ones. Now they're doing Forever, and I hope they keep going backwards. I hope they'll do Returns in '89 as well because they will get me for all of them. So.
Yes, that's awesome. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. That's so cool. That's so cool. I still remember being in the car with like three other friends in the summer of 1995. I was 13 and being like so hyped for Batman Forever. Oh
Yeah.
my God, Robin's gonna be in this one. It's gonna be so cool, and like just loving the whole Jim Carrey of it because that was like when his star was the brightest in the universe. It
Yeah.
was that was in like you said, magical. That was another magical time. Then I remember in 1997 seeing Batman and Robin. I had just finished my Spanish. I was in ninth grade. I just finished my Spanish final. And then me and a friend, my dad gave us a ride up and we watched the movie and it was like,
Mm.
whoa, Batman. Okay. It was an experience at the very least.
It was.
Excuse me. And all the puns, ice to see you, all that stuff. That was funny.
I almost didn't even see that one in the theater, but I feel like on that weekend I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll go. Like, because I didn't love Forever, for all the same reasons. Um, so when Batman and Robin was coming out in '97, I was already like, oh, I don't know about this, but I went because what else am I gonna do that weekend? And yes, I mean, I think we all had the reaction, but it is funny, and I've talked about it on Batcast where.
Yeah, you guys had your commentary on it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, and now like so much time has passed and we've had so many other versions of Batman that like I've kind of come around on the Schumacher films of being like, listen, they're dumb, but hey, like they're colorful, they're trying to give you a good time. I give them credit for that.
Uh-huh. The last time I watched Batman and Robin was probably like maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And I remember just being like, wow, it was like a fever dream because I hadn't watched it in years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like I will put both of them on like as like background now and then, just like because I don't want to like sit and like watch, but like as like a
Yeah.
fun little background while I'm doing other stuff, I'll put them on.
Yeah. I the first scene with the bat skates, with the ice
Yes.
skates, like and then the blades come out. That's so
when
funny.
when that happened in the theater back in '97, I was like, Oh wow, we're in
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah. It's like, whoa. And then like Batman's like gliding like this. That was when what Extreme Sports was like really hitting its stride. So like, whoosh, and then Arnold was up on one, and oh, it was so funny. It was
Yeah,
amazing.
and you've got like the yeah, like the what was it, air surfing? Was that what it was called? Was that
Yeah. When they jumped out.
jump
Yeah.
off the rockets and it's like they're doing like the air thing and it was so obvious that it was like, oh, you know what's cool right now is this, I saw it in a Mountain Dew commercial. Batman should do that.
Yeah. On ESPN. I remember when Bane got announced too, it was like, oh my God, Bane's gonna be in it. But it was like, no way they're gonna do Nightfall. So, but that was a waste of a Bane. But I
Indeed.
loved Tom Hardy's Bane. How about you?
I love it too. Yeah, I love him too. I think he's great.
Yeah.
It's funny. I like the voice has become such a thing and it
Oh,
is hilarious. And like, I love it when they do it on
yeah.
Harley Quinn and everything.
Yeah.
Like in the context of the movie, I freaking love his voice. I'll listen to him all day.
Dude, it's terrifying in the movie.
Yeah,
It's
it's so
terrifying.
good.
I remember I went with an ex of mine, and when we went opening night, stood in line. Uh, we get into the IMAX, and when they get to the scene where Bruce goes in to fight Bane the first time,
Hmm.
chilling,
Yeah.
chilling.
Yeah.
Like you could hear a pin drop, and the whole theater was packed. You could hear a pin drop. All you could hear was like Bane whooping up on Batman, and then when he broke his mask on the side, it was horrifying, but also very satisfying because I'm like, all
Hmm.
right, they actually put like a piece of Nightfall in this, and then
Yeah,
broke his
they're
back,
doing
and
it.
man, that was so cool. I remember being just like totally drawn in. Even when I watched that movie now, I watched it probably about 3 weeks ago. It's still a heavy watch for me. Like it's not like,
Hmm.
you know, it's not like watching Inception or something. It's like heavy. It's a lot to chew
Yeah.
on, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, for sure.
Which one is your favorite of the Batman movies? Of all of
Oh,
them. Of all of
of
them.
all,
Yeah.
my favorite is 89, because it's
Out of
the
sentimentality or
yeah.
okay.
I don't say it's the best one, but it is my favorite because it's the one that made me fall in love with Batman,
Man, you
and
just wait a minute. You just spoke like a lawyer. It's not it's what was it? It's not my favorite story, but it is my
no, I
favorite.
said I wouldn't say it's the best Batman movie, but it
But
is my favorite.
there you go. Thank you. It's very
Yeah,
lawyerish of you, but I know you're not a lawyer. So go ahead. I'm
I'm
sorry.
not.
Go ahead. Uh,
But yeah, I mean, it's the one that made me fall in love with Batman. I mean, I already liked Batman, but man, if you were around in the summer of 1989, anyone will tell you like what a magical time that was, and I was obsessed, absolutely obsessed. And we had fun on Holy Batcast in June talking about some of the Batmania that happened back in 1989, and it's my sentimental favorite.
your sentimental
I
favorite.
I still think the best one for me is Batman Begins. I just think it's
Yes.
it's perfect. I love it. Um, but for anyone like I feel like the difference between Batman Begins and The Dark Knight is so minuscule that like I think Begins is slightly better, but it is so slight that when people prefer The Dark Knight over Begins, I'm like, I'm not even gonna fight you on it.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna keep my knife in my pocket. I get you.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, I remember I didn't even know I don't remember there being much hype for Batman Begins,
There wasn't. It was very muted. It was
right?
interesting.
I think somebody told me, like, hey, there's a new Batman movie coming out. I'm like, what? And then I went and saw it, and I went by myself, and it was me, it was just me, and the theater was pretty much packed. And I remember sitting there and just being like giddy inside, like absolutely giddy, because I was also subscribing at the time to Batman's subscription from DC when
Mhm.
they would mail it to your house. So I was like, oh my God, what I just read a couple of days ago, I'm seeing like the portrayal and the essence of the character on screen. Unbelievable. I was spellbound. And then I went and saw it the next night too. So
Yeah, I
how
mean
about
that was kind of the nice thing about that movie is because the hype it wasn't the hype of 89
no.
or Returns or then The Dark Knight or whatever. Um it had all this potential to just blow us away because we were like, "Oh, it's a new Batman movie and the trailers are good." But then we go to see it and it was just a home run and it was like, "Oh, they did it. They pulled it off." And walking out, we walked out on a high being like, "Oh my God, I wanted to like it. I didn't expect it to be that damn good." And it
Right.
is.
Right.
Yeah.
I still remember my parents were upstairs in bed, and I came in and I was just like in a trance, and I walked upstairs and I knocked on their door, and I'm like, And thankfully, my mom was still up watching TV. I was like, oh my God, let me tell you how good this movie was. I was like absolutely just over the moon, over the moon. And I don't know if any other movie has grabbed me like that, where I came home and I was that, effervescent about it. Like, oh,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
'cause it, and they don't understand it like we understand it. They can just, appreciate our enthusiasm, but it's like, no, it was like a spiritual experience. It was so good.
Yeah.
It
What's
was
your
so
favorite one?
My favorite one is Batman Begins for
Oh, okay, good.
for all those
Good.
reasons. But
Yeah.
like when I go to watch, I can't just like The Dark Knight Rises. I can't go and just watch like The Dark Knight or The Dark Knight Rises in background or like subtly.
Hmm.
I feel like I'm always like pumping iron or like chewing a tough piece of delicious steak when I watch those movies. Like for me, it's an endeavor to sit there and watch them. I
Yeah.
really enjoy them, but I can't watch them too much because I already know like every single line. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but those are movies that you have to really pay attention to if unless it's just kind of like, So,
Yeah. You're right. Yeah, those I don't really put on as background so much because you're right. Like I almost feel like I'm doing them a disservice. Like
yes,
if I'm
yes,
gonna put it on, I want to
yes,
focus and totally be committed to it.
yes, yes. Now, how have you ever had this experience? So, when I watch those movies from time to time, I tell myself, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna like fade out of the geek mode and I'm gonna just watch this movie as a movie and
Hmm.
like just appreciate the themes and how the story connects and the action and this and that. And I find myself still being as appreciative, you know, putting my Batman geekdom to the side a little bit and being more of a film fan. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Like the movies are just great, and now anything that Nolan makes, I'll be there.
Yep.
Anything. He
Yep.
could be like, a guy on the toilet and, where he's going back in time on the toilet. Like I would be there. I'd be like, wow, this is amazing. So, yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong. You aren't you a big repeat viewer of movies? Because I know Jamie does that. Like he'll go 10 times. Do you do
Like
that
in the
too?
theater?
Yeah, yeah.
I used to until I had a kid.
Right.
Now it's not so much. But I mean, yeah, like yeah, I remember seeing like The Dark Knight like 5 times back in 2008. I think Begins I probably saw 3 or 4 times, Dark Knight Rises I think was five again.
Wow,
Um
that's so
yeah.
awesome, dude.
Yeah,
That's so
so back
awesome.
then for sure, but now, when it comes with a babysitter, I'm lucky to see it once in a theater. It's
No, but thankfully technology is so advanced, seeing it at home isn't as bad as it used to be on the
no, not at all. And I
on the
mean,
boob tube.
yeah, and they come out quicker.
Yeah, yeah. They do come out quicker, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
movies in general come out quicker, and then when they get transferred to disc, they come out quicker. Yes, very much so.
yeah.
The most I've ever seen a movie is three times, and
Mm.
I saw Inception three times.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it in IMAX three times. I think I saw it all three times by myself, and the
Hmm.
IMAX theater at the time was like an hour away. But now
Oh, wow.
I live around the corner from it now. But at the time I didn't, and I drive up there and drive home an hour each way, and it was like wow. But yeah, like nothing's ever grabbed me to go out like five, six times. I
Yeah.
just and probably since Batman Begins or The Dark Knight, a movie hasn't like excited me in my soul to where it's been like, oh my God, I can't wait for this movie. And, I'm just like going bonkers. So
Right, right.
now I know you weren't a fan of the Batman, right?
Nah, I wasn't. It didn't do it for me. It was not my jam.
Your cup of tea. I understand. I remember sitting in Dune and the trailer played for my friend and I, and I'm like, I've seen all this before. But then I went and saw the movie the first time, and my brain was stuck on the Dark Knight of it all.
Hmm.
And I had a very
Yeah.
hard time paying it, like being in the moment. And when I saw it the second time, I'm like, oh, this is a beautiful movie. It's beautifully shot. It's well done. I'm not a fan of emo Batman or emo Bruce. I was
Hmm.
very concerned about that. But I enjoyed the movie for what it was. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So, but it was totally
Yeah.
different than what we're used to.
Yeah, it definitely has its fans, and I don't want to take that away. It's just it was Nolan was the most realistic I ever needed to go with Batman. And so the fact that like the new franchise was like, we're gonna be even more realistic, we're gonna even be darker. Like
Look
I
at this car.
right, I'd gotten everything I needed from dark realistic Batman from Nolan, and
Yeah.
then even by extension Snyder, not the realistic part, but like the dark part that like yeah, like I just didn't need to go further down that road. Like again, give me a little color back, give me a little fun. I'm ready. I'm ready for that. And so I hope that, I will see that again on the big screen someday.
Use a feather, tickle my feet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Snyder. I've heard your story of how you met him, and you said he was
Mhm.
very pleasant. I must tell you, what really hooked me on your show was it was right around the time that Zack Snyder's Justice League was announced, and I found you guys by chance on I think on Twitter, maybe somebody had retweeted it. And so all your fandom of Snyder and his movies, and you had Richard Citrone on a couple of times, which
Yeah.
were awesome, awesome interviews. I loved them. And you inspired me to, listening to you guys actually helped inspire me to endeavor to do this project. So my friend, my co-pilot Scott, we usually talk, geek stuff for like 2, 3 hours on the phone. He's like, why don't we just do a YouTube channel? And I was like, wow, yeah, I could do that. And because listening to you and Brendan and Jamie was a piece of my inspiration. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you. I'm
No,
glad to hear that.
really.
That makes me happy.
Yeah, 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 really. And I had Richard Citrone on because you guys had him on, and you guys did
Hmm.
such a better job with Richard. Like he was, you know, there was so much energy and joy, and I just love those. Like for you, I have so many of your episodes saved on my phone. I have I'll just rattle them off real fast just to show you how real it is. I've got your Watchmen 10th anniversary, Batman 30th anniversary. I love how you guys talk about BVS, your fifth anniversary, Zack Snyder's Justice League. I remember driving home in the car and listening to like part of it. And then when you guys had the waitress on driving home in the car, I was like, wow, this is such a like who would have cared to listen to the girl who was the waitress? But you guys killed that one. That was a good one. Stunt Batman Returns. Looking back at the Dark Knight Rises, I love that one too that you guys did recently, a couple of years ago, a year or two ago. Batman 89 parts 1 and 2, looking back at Batman Returns, your original take on the BVS Ultimate Edition, The Dark Knight
Wow.
Returns, Richard's first interview, and Man of Steel fifth anniversary commentary. And I also loved your team up with Scott and Tim
Hmm.
from the Squadcast.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I have those saved too. And like those are that's some joyous listening for Batman Begins and The Dark Knight. I really,
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
Thank
yeah. I would love to hear you guys do a Dark Knight Rises one like you did the first two movies.
Yeah, I haven't talked to them in a minute, so I'd have to check in with them, see what they're up to. So,
I've been trying to get a hold of Tim, but it's like he fell off the face of the earth. I messaged Scott on Twitter. I'm like, hey man, when's there gonna be more Squadcast stuff and like Batman by scene? He's like, you gotta ask Tim. And I was like, okay.
yeah, who knows? But no, that's cool. That's quite a little walk down memory lane of things that were like recent and then all the way back.
Yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
I absolutely love your podcast. I'm a huge fan. I'm just a huge fan. And so this is like you're doing me some fan service. So
No.
thanks again
Well, thanks.
for thanks again for indulging me. I
Of
appreciate it.
course. Of
Yeah,
course.
I love the show. I love the show. And the three of you guys have such great chemistry. Um, it really is. It's like it really is nice to listen to. It really is.
Well,
You
thanks.
guys really have a niche. So
Yeah, we try. We have fun.
no, you really
I
do.
love those guys, those crazy guys.
You do, you do. I remember I followed Jamie like a couple of years ago when he was, on again and off again Twitter. And then he followed me back and I was like, oh my God, Jamie Drewley follows me. And it was like one of the Backstreet Boys, like, followed, you know. Sometimes my go-to is like I'll tell you how excited I was. I'll say like seeing Batman Begins was like, a high school girl meeting the Backstreet Boys. I was squealing, like
Yeah.
that's my jam. So
Yeah.
yeah, I really appreciate it.
Well, that's how
Thank
we
you.
love to feel when we go see a movie that, that grabs us. Like it's, I have had others since The Dark Knight, but like, yeah, like when it happens, it's rare and it's special and it's fun when come out on a high because you loved it that much,
Yeah, yeah.
Wonder Woman, I felt that way, I
Wonder Woman was good. Yeah.
like, there's just certain movies where you walk out and you're like, oh my God, that was amazing. So
I also appreciate, speaking of that, coming out of the theater, I appreciate how you went back, your initial, and I think you played it too, your initial reactions to Justice League. Remember
Yeah.
that episode?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was a lot of fun. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I said that, or I can't believe you said that, you
You
know?
gotta own it,
Yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, yeah, honestly, when in Justice League, the theatrical cut, when I walked out, I was thrilled. I was like, oh my God, they did it. It was great. And
Yeah.
then, the more you live with it, the more the seams start to show, and that initial excitement wears off. But I still don't hate it the way a lot of other folks do. I still think there's some good stuff in there, legit. But like that was fun for the 10th anniversary of being like, hey, here's what we said when Justice League first came out. Here's what we said when BVS first came out.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's fun to go back, and because God, 10 years of podcast, I don't remember what I said,
correct.
and neither do Jamie and Brendan. And
Yeah,
so
yeah, yeah,
it's fun
yeah,
to dig up some of that stuff.
yeah. Well, speaking of BBS, I remember all the terrible criticisms of it online and in the papers. And I've never been a critic guy. I'm a judge for myself. And
Hmm.
I remember sitting there at the end of the movie and being like, I didn't like this movie. What's wrong with me? Like I felt dirty, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once I appreciated some of the things they went for, especially the death of Superman. Like that's mega, mega nerve to do that, you know? Like you got to have some broad shoulders for that. And I remember that specifically, people like sniffling in the theater too, because
Hmm.
Superman died. And it was like,
Hmm.
wow, you know, if I was younger, it probably would have hit me the same. But then once the Ultimate Edition came out, I started to come around on it. And then the more I heard Zach talk about it and like what him and Terrio were going for, my appreciation for the movie is like on a whole nother level now. So
Well, that's nice to hear.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's such a tricky movie, and I still love it. I loved it when it came out. I still love it now, but the people who don't love it, like, I get it. I get why it doesn't work for everybody, and I don't think they're wrong for not liking it.
sure.
I get it. Like, we all have different tastes, and so yeah, but it's such an interesting one, and what an odd first step into the creator connected DC universe. Um, But yeah, it's a shame things went the way they did, because I still really love that movie. I really like Zack Snyder's Justice League, but again, like I also understand that Snyder's approach is not for everyone, and that's fair too.
It's heartbreaking whenever I think of it ends with my fan hat on because those actors had such great chemistry with each other.
Yeah.
And you could tell they really wanted, especially when you watch Snyder's movie, you can tell they really wanted to make a great movie
Yeah.
out for
Yeah.
Justice League. And then to not have Gal Gadot come back, like that's just mind blowing too. I have like a massive geek crush on her.
Oh, you mean like for this new
Yeah,
beginning?
yeah,
Ah.
yeah. Like I was
Mhm.
hoping there was some way they could fold her back in. Because Wonder Woman 84 to me, my opinion, was like I've wiped it from my mind, from my head canon.
Yeah.
It just was so bad to me. My mom, who's almost 70, I remember she watched it. She's like, I like this movie. I'm like, well, I'm glad you liked it, mom. You know, but
Well,
yeah, it just wasn't me. But the first Wonder Woman was excellent. I love that
yeah.
movie. I love that movie. That's excellent. And Gal Gadot, she's just so, she's Wonder Woman. She's just
Yeah.
Wonder
Yeah.
Woman.
I mean, she was amazing in the role, and I loved her in it, and I I get it though. I get like if you want the cleanest fresh start, you know, just doing that. Um, but we were lucky to have her she's great in
Right?
BVS, she was great in Wonder Woman, she was great in Zack Snyder's Justice League. I liked Wonder Woman 1984. I haven't watched it since it came out, but I liked it. Um,
Just stay with that memory, Andy.
yeah,
Just
maybe.
stay.
But regardless, like I do wonder, I'm sure there were conversations of them being like, do we try to keep the pieces that are still working, like Gal Gadot or like Jason Momoa? And I understand why they went, you know what, let's just, what do they keep? Amanda Waller and Peacemaker? Is that who they're keeping? I think that's it.
I think that's
and
it. I think
and
that's
those
it.
are kind of like, do they really count? So I get it. And I think I appreciated the universe we got. I enjoyed almost all of them, at least somewhat. um but I think that sometimes it's time for a clean break to start over.
Yeah. I know.
But she was the first cinematic Wonder Woman, and no one can ever take that away from her.
Nope. Three snaps in Z formation. You
Yeah.
know. So I remember just as the new universe got announced, I had sent away. CGC had a signing event with her.
Hmm.
It was like $400, and she signed it, they graded it and all that, and it came back and it was just immaculate. And it was the variant cover, I think, for like Justice Wonder Woman 51 or something, and it was her. It was a foil cover.
Uh-huh.
It's her on the front with the JL, like the J is facing this way, the L, but she's in the middle with her shield and sword, and it like
Hmm.
shined in the light. It was like one of those gimmick covers, and it's
Yeah,
got Gal Gadot on there, and I was like, oh my god, and
that's
so,
great.
what do you think of the way the suit looks in the new Superman movie?
Overall, I like it. I like the design of it. I like the way it incorporates a lot of different elements from different Superman looks over the years. My only hesitation is that in a lot of those set photos, it just looks a little baggy, like it bunches up a little bit. So that's my concern. And I'm hoping that that is something that will not look like that when we're watching the movie. If they get rid of that bagginess, whether it through effects or like maybe it's built to be baggy so he can move better and they're gonna fix it in post. I don't know. If they fix the bagginess issue, I think it's good. I like it.
Okay, I like the overall aesthetic,
Yeah.
and I'm a fan of the trunks. However, like you said, the ones where it like crinkles, and then like
Right.
on the elbow, there's like an elbow crinkle and stuff. It
Yeah.
almost reminds me of like a rigid like raincoat, like that material. Like it
Hmm.
just looks kind of like plastic rubber, you know?
Yeah.
And it just and then you see like the designs, it almost looks like the new 52, like the armor thing,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but
Hmm.
it's like I- I'm super intrigued to see how they explain the way it looked. Because
Hmm.
Snyder, at least he hit that right off the bat, like in Man of Steel. Like this is
Yeah.
what the suit is, this is why it looks this way, go. And it was like, all right, I get it, you
Right.
know. Whereas
Yeah. Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
I'm like, are they gonna go like his mom sewed it like in the comics and she made this? Like, I don't know. I think
I
the
don't
story will be
know.
good, but the
Yeah,
suit
we have
itself.
a we have a little less than a year to find out. So I am super excited for the movie. I'll say that. I'm
You
super
are super
excited.
excited.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm super into it. I think that it's going to be great. And for the most part I really like the suit too, but yeah, like again, kind of like Gal Gadot, like it's a shame we didn't get more Cavill. I thought Cavill was a great Superman, but again,
Heartbroken.
I
Heartbroken. I remember
understand.
listening to your podcast too,
Yeah.
like, come on. Yeah,
Yeah.
shedding tears. Yeah.
But also I get it. Again, if we're launching a new universe, we want to launch with Superman and we also want to set it up for the future. It makes sense to go 10 years younger than Cavill. That makes sense. So I'm totally cool with it. I'm looking forward to the movie. And I think that James Gunn, like he's super passionate about it. It's exciting to hear him talk about it. And so I'm excited for the movie.
I am optimistic. I'm not
Mhm.
excited yet. Like I was telling my co-pilot Scott, if the movie comes out and people are like, "Oh my God, this is great," then that'll hype me up when I go see it.
Yeah.
But chances are like 9.5 out of 10 that I'll be there opening night, just out of my own curiosity.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be nice to see that start. I love how he's incorporating other characters already. So it's like, all right,
Mhm.
we're setting up the universe right now, and so we can maybe in a 2 years get to a Justice League movie, because that's what I really want. I want another Justice League movie. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but I let's both digress on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm such a fanboy of Holy Batcast. You can tell Jamie and Brendan too. Like I met a 42-year-old man who's like a groupie for us. So
I will, I will send your regards.
yeah, send my affections.
I will. I will send your affections.
So
Good.